after a while, she came back. She came back and she said, "Do you have some time? Boy, 有点时间嘛? Do you have some time?" I said, "Oh, sure. What?"
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in and welcome to episode 2 of
Spill the Tea with THG.
And in this podcast series, we will be talking about societal issues that are very close to our hearts. And we hope that the topics that we have chosen will be very relatable to you as well. And we would like to take this opportunity to thank our App One listeners for giving us feedback and comments on the topics that you would like to listen in our podcast series. We will be sieving them through and planning out in our following podcast episodes. And so do tune in to us on Spotify.
And catch us on Instagram and Facebook.
I'm XY.
I'm Christian.
And we are very happy today to have 2 guests join us. And they are Jingzhou and Dr. Maulod. Yeah, Jingzhou is actually a co-founder of Cassia Resettlement Team and currently leads the team there. And Dr. Maulod is actually from the Center of Aging, Research and Education at Duke NUS. So they are both very active individuals in the elderly care space. Maybe I'll get them to talk a little bit more about what they are actually doing currently to support in that area.
Hi everyone, I'm Jingzhou. I'm from the Cassia Resettlement Team. I work mostly with low-income communities and seniors, most of whom live in public rental housing,
Right.
and most of whom have also been involuntarily relocated due to government redevelopment plans. So some of the sites I've covered include Dakota Crescent, Sims Drive, both of which moved to Cassia Crescent, and I'm currently also working on a project for residents who are relocating from Tanglin Halt and Commonwealth.
Right, okay. How Dr. yourself?
So I'm Ad, you can call me Ad. I'm an anthropologist. The sexy word for anthropologist is actually someone who is very capable. So what I do is that I talk to older people. Most of my research centers around poor older people living in Chinatown area. So I talk to them, get to know them better, asking them about their needs. So I make sense of their lived realities in order to better design better interventions
Right.
on how we care for older people, how we think about aging in our community.
Okay. Yeah, I think today what we are going to talk about is something I'm sure all of us have actually thought about at some point of time. And it's really about working elderly in Singapore. And we will be discussing whether or not healthy aging, is it healthy aging or is it elderly poverty? Because we see a lot of elderly working in Singapore today, right? All the cleaning aunties or even those that are selling tissue papers in MRT stations and all that. So that triggers the question, like why are they actually still working? Why do they are they working because they just need something to do to keep their minds active, or do they really need that extra income from them? So from your perspectives, why do you think this is actually happening in our current society?
Yeah, from the experiences that I have, the residents and the seniors I've spoken to, I think it's really hard to pinpoint clear-cut what the problem is or what the reason is universally across all seniors. From my experience, I've seen some seniors who really had some difficulties adjusting to life after retirement,
Right.
or life after not being able to work anymore due to sickness. One aspect of it is really could be the lack of meaningful activities to engage in. Some of them have been so used to the working routines, they enjoy their work significantly, and suddenly they just find themselves, there's nothing to do in my life anymore.
Right.
That's one aspect of it. The other aspect that I've come to realize is how important the social interactions and networks in our work life can be. I think we don't realize it when we are working ourselves. But hearing from their stories, many of them share with me about how they really enjoyed meeting the people they do at work. For example, one of the residents that I've known for quite a long time, she used to work as a cleaner in the school, and she will always talk about her fond memories and also the different students and teachers and also colleagues that she worked with. Some of them very fond memories, sometimes some small quarrels here and there, but it really points to how much they mean to them. Another resident I've worked with was not able to work anymore because he had a terminal illness. He was working as a security guard for more than 20 to 30 years. And what happened was that he said that he really enjoyed working there. He knew all the people who lived at the place that he was working at, and they were really like friends and family to him. And then now he's not able to work anymore. So I think there is some truth behind the reasons or the suggestions that seniors want to go back to work. On the other hand, I've also met different seniors who share about the issues that come with the lack of retirement savings, and the issues that come with the loss of employment, work income. A lot of times it's because when the savings or the income no longer allow them to meet their familiar consumption needs, that's when there is also a strong desire to say, I need to go back to work, whether or not I can or I might not be so fit anymore, because I just can't get used to living with this financial assistance package or this retirement savings that unfortunately is inadequate. So those I think my experiences that cover both ends of the spectrum thus far.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of
Actually, to add
yes,
to that,
yes.
we conducted a study at CARE, the center I'm from, and actually the most common reasons is what Jingzhou said. Jingzhou, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that people are working to top up their income, to stay healthy. I mean, the whole issue here is that if I keep working, I keep my mind active.
Yep.
And they also enjoy working, as with the example of the cleaner with fond memories of working, interacting with others, and also contributing to society. So these were the main reasons we found in our study as to why people wanted to work. And the main reason, I think about 70% responses was an income issue.
So income issue meaning to say their retirement savings are not enough to support as a main source of income for them. That's why they're doing that, right?
So they need money.
They need money to even sustain their own basic needs to survive. And how then do you all think that it's actually healthy for them to do that, or is it because they have no choice, that's why they have to do that?
I think it's not up to us to say whether or not it's healthy for someone to work. I mean, I'm sure some of you have had working experiences. Some of it joyful, and some of it actually stress-inducing. And it's not all the time that work gives us pleasure, because face it, work is work.
Yeah.
And not all of us are lucky enough to find a job that we find meaningful and they want to continue doing until we die. So the issue here is actually choice. It is healthy if, given a choice, you choose to work. It is not that healthy or as healthy. I mean, it depends on how you define health. If your job causes you daily stress, if you find it difficult to perform at work because of certain issues like what he mentioned about health, then if that job brings you extreme stress, that's not healthy for me.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But for me, my experience would be, because I'm from like business and social enterprise, so I actually worked with like working elderlies back then, like last year, during one of my modules, and they actually mentioned that how working brings joy to them actually, because one of them were in like the senior activity center, and then they were saying like since like their kids have grown up, and then like basically they are just left with just her husband and the lady, which is Auntie Annie, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, she was a bus, she was just like a school bus kind of auntie who actually like drop off the kids, and then yeah, you get what I mean. Yeah, but actually she was just saying like, since she's like she's able to like work, and basically she's fit enough to work, then why not? Yeah.
So you're she's still healthy to do it. So why don't use that time to actually
in a way
work?
also to pass time as well, because weekdays especially, they have nothing much to do other than just going to the market and then eat and stuff like that. But after that, they will just be like saying facing like the interaction with the kids are actually brings joy to her in her life at her golden age.
Which is what he was saying just now, that people go to work because they to escape boredom. That was one of the things you mentioned. So the next question is, are there any other like suitable or decent alternatives other than work? Can people find meaning other than paid work?
Yeah. Finding meaning is actually very important, because I think even if it's not because of the income, right? They also want to find meaning for continuing to live at that age, because be it going to activity centers like this or mixing around with friends, and even like Jingzhou mentioned, having that income to work as a cleaner, but at the same time hearing stories from people around you, it really warms the seniors' hearts as well. Yeah, but I think the burning question is also then on what actually defines the basic needs that they need. Is it because the cost of living in Singapore it's getting a lot higher, that's why they cannot meet that basic needs, and that's why they need to work? And also brings the question of whether or not their retirement plans savings are enough. And also it trickles down to our current generation, like if our seniors, our elderly are actually are facing this problem right now. So how can we as young adults to plan for our future, be prepared to have enough savings for ourselves? Yeah, what do y'all think?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've seen on the ground is that when it comes to a point of transition, right? So from working to not working anymore, it's a significant point of transition.
Yes.
We talked about how it affects the social life. We talked about how it affects people emotionally. And now we're talking about how it affects people financially and whether that affects their ability to meet their basic needs. And I guess that's the difficulty that we sometimes have, or even in public discourse and debate. What exactly could these basic needs look like, and how do we quantify them? Some people have argued, and I think there is some reason there that we should also try to understand that there is an inevitable adjustment to be made when you move from working to when you're not working. Your income would likely drop to different extents for different people, probably. And then with that drop in income, it then depends on how your consumption habits are. Some people are able to adjust fairly easily to retirement savings to meet the kind of income and retirement savings they have. Some people have more difficulties. But I think then this is a good segue to actually go back to the question of what exactly are the basic needs. Because beyond the adjustments, and that could be subjective, could be dependent on people, I think we can all agree that we want our seniors and even ourselves in the future to no matter what, be able to meet those basic needs.
Right. And I'm sure Dr. Art can also add on to this as well, because I understand you also recently contributed in an article on the basic needs of our elderly care as well. So will you care to explain a little bit more on the basic needs?
Sure, we did a study. It's called, it's a consensus method. It's called a minimum income standard study. So basically what we did was we gathered like about 100 over older people over several sessions and have them talk about what they need in order to live adequately in Singapore. Right. So basically the essential question was, what is enough in our country? So what we found from people's definitions of basic need is that basic needs are not just about housing, food or clothing. It also includes opportunities to education, employment, work-life balance, and access to healthcare. So when you achieve these needs, basically it must enable a sense of belonging, respect, security, and independence. It also includes choices to participate in social activities and freedom to carry out your cultural and religious practices. So basically it's a basic living standard that applies to everyone and not just older people. I'm pretty sure it applies to all of us here at the table.
Yep.
So when we conducted this study, we found that the amount that a single elderly person needs in a household is $1,379. Okay, this is for people aged 65 and above. And for a couple elderly living in a household, it's $2,351. And for single elderly households aged 55 to 64, it was $1,721. So this 1,379 is actually a list of items included in this figure. So we have personal care items and clothing, food, where older people said that eating at the hawker centers was cheaper than eating at home, and you need to eat outside to socialize with friends.
Yeah.
There's also occasional outings to restaurants because special occasions you want to celebrate with your loved ones. You need money for that. Okay. There's also transport costs that includes concession passes and taxis for contingencies. And they said specifically for medical appointments or attending weddings when it's not convenient to take a public transport. Next would be leisure and cultural activities. So people were saying that we need some money to travel because living in Singapore is so stressful. You work all your life and you want to feel the rewards for your own like hard labor. Yeah, and it's a relief from stress as well, and to escape this highly dense city. There's also money for healthcare, which includes GP visits, health screening, a small first aid kit at home, vaccination, some dental checkups, etc. And that's about it. And also clothing and personal care items.
Right. So all this what I'm hearing, they are really essential basic needs. Just wondering how it's the general public actually reacting to this study, especially if you're working in that elderly care space, right? How do the elderly actually react to that? Is that something that they agree upon? Like this is what we need, because from my understanding of the study, it excludes like all your like if you actually own a car or not. This they're not actually included, and sometimes those are important to have as well as a bonus as well. So I'm just curious to ask what do the elderly actually think about this?
I think what I found fascinating about this study was that we see how basic needs change across time.
Right. Yeah.
So previously, things like mobile phones, computers was not a basic need.
Right.
But when we spoke to our participants, that a mobile phone is a necessity.
Yeah.
And it's not just to call or WhatsApp, it's to actually inform someone when you fall. And the phone is the closest to you.
Yeah.
They actually basically thought about the phone as like having a person next to you. Yeah. So and a laptop to connect to others, to watch movies or to basically keep yourself updated with current affairs.
And it's getting more and more important, like
as
technology evolves, right? Like for us, when we get old, I'm for definitely I cannot live without a phone or an iPad.
Same.
Yeah. So like you said, needs actually change along the way. So I think with that as well, the cost actually also will go up at some point, right? Yeah. So how do you think that our current society is actually treating our elderly in terms of their, when we see them along the streets and all that? How are we generally treating them, do you think?
I think it's hard to generalize. I've personally seen people who have really treated many of the seniors with a lot of kindness. Whether is it just simple gestures of appreciating them and the work they do. Some I've even seen people go to actually spend some time and effort to talk to people.
Right.
We also hear of many different volunteers and grown-up initiatives and community initiatives that go out to engage and appreciate these seniors. Of course, there are times where we also hear news about incidents that are not so nice and pleasant happening at the same time. I think other than that, the question that a lot of my peers also ask me, because they know I do the work that I do, is that it's also kind of the reason why we are here today, which is, so what exactly is behind these seniors working? I see some of them having such a hard time working. Isn't there a better way out for them? Things like that. I think there's some reality behind this question, and there are some difficult experiences some of the seniors might have as well. So for instance, if we look at the figure required for the basic needs that we just discussed, and we looked at the seniors who might have no savings at all, no form of income, for a wide variety of reasons, they would probably be eligible for financial assistance provided by the government. But that quantum was $500 previously. I think from 1st July 2019 it was revised to $600. So that's still some way away from what we would think that it would have adequately met the basic needs, as the study has shown. That is one part of it. I think the other part of it is also that for some of the seniors that I've spoken to, this doesn't represent all of them, but I think some of them did share that there could be some difficulties in accessing the financial assistance. One of them is that because our society and government policy, public policy, has an emphasis on asking family members to support the seniors at home first.
Yes.
Family is the first line of
Yes,
support.
yeah.
What then happens is that to actually get financial assistance, if you have children, you would need to either prove that they are low income and unable to support you as well, or they would actually need to allow the government officers to actually speak to their children to verify and understand before as part of the assessment for the application. I think there's a certain demand to make sure that people do not cheat the system in a certain way. I think that's why the policy is present. But at the same time, I also empathize with the difficulties that the seniors have, which is that I might actually have a poor relationship with my children, or actually I know that my children are having a hard time too, and I rather sort of suffer and go out and work, and I don't want people to go and disturb them. So some of these realities I think do exist. Other than the sum, which people could debate and argue about, there's also, I think, the important aspect of how do people access aid and assistance if they need it.
Right. And ultimately, I think what the government is trying to do is to provide that that support and financially, so that they actually elderly can have the freedom to choose how they want to live their lives as well, right? Yeah. So I understand also from the whole resettlement to Kasia, right? There are a lot of stories, interesting stories that Jingzhou you might have met and heard about. Maybe can you care to share a couple of them? We'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, so one of the things that happened with the relocation and resettlement is that there was actually a change in the sort of senior activity center that we might be quite more familiar with, that we see just right below the block. So what happened for the Dakota community particularly was that they were used to one of the elder care centers, and then it was changed to another service provider and another center after they were relocated. So what then happened there was quite educational for me, I guess. What happened was that I had the opportunity to witness how the seniors actually would interact with such avenues for what we might think is active aging. Right, so we explored about income just now, and we think about, so besides work, what are the other options? I guess people might point to and say that there are these senior activity centers, there are these daycare centers and all of that. And it's really quite interesting because I've seen some seniors really grow to like to go to the new senior activity center. Some seniors, because of the relocation, find it hard to adapt to the new one, which is reasonable and understandable as well. And now, when the block is actually quite populated, it's quite filled with different households, families and seniors. Increasingly, I hear seniors share with me that, there's a lack of space, not enough space, you must go 1 hour in advance to chop a seat, that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I really empathize with the centers as well. I mean, they only have that much space, that much staff, and there is a large community they are serving. But I do also then get a chance, which I'm really thankful for, to learn from my seniors why some of these maybe familiar avenues to meet your aging needs or to have active aging in the community might be challenging. Whether is it the lack of space, whether is it they might not be eligible to attend some of these services. And I think the most fascinating learning point for me is that actually, if we think about it, all of us have different interests. We have different things that we like to do. We have different hobbies. There are different kinds of people that we like to hang out with and talk to. Yeah. So with these centers, what happens is that it is usually more of a one-size-fits-all approach. So it does usually capture quite well the majority of seniors to engage them and attract them to attend. But there are some seniors that I will notice, and that's where my team comes in to try to support them more, that they find that they're not suitable to go to these centers or these activities. They might say that I'm more introverted, I can't deal with such a big crowd, or this activity is not suitable for me, things like that. And so I think those are the different experiences that I have when I interact with seniors and when they share with me about how they would like to age and how they would like to be active. But some of them manage to do so very well. Some of them have more difficulties doing so.
Yeah, because everyone has different lifestyles also. It's really about adaptability but laying out options for them to actually do that even at that age. Yeah.
So some of the most powerful centers or programs or interventions that I've seen, I think, is when the choice, as we have talked about for up till now, the choice is given back to the seniors. What do you do in that space? What do you do in that time there? What the resources put into, what do they all transform to? I think when the choice is given back to the seniors, just as how they have managed to define what basic needs are and what it means to fulfill them, I think we have seen how they are also able to decide what to do with those spaces, resources and time, and then therefore it's not so much of a one-size-fits-all approach anymore. You actually might have a better chance of meeting the specific and unique needs of different individuals and different communities.
And the challenge should be, how do we design centers or programs that basically appeals to a wide range of people, rather than a specific assumption that we have of what older people like or don't like. I think the challenge these days to design senior activity centers is, how do we attract older people who traditionally do not fit the model of the SAC, because traditionally the SAC was currently located at rental flats. So we have middle income or purchase flats, older people who would say things like, oh, I don't want to go to the SAC because that's for the poorer and sicker people, whereas I'm different. So there's also differences amongst older people in terms of the kinds of activities they like to do. So how do we create an inclusive space where people have the choice to participate without feeling that they're being obliged or they're compromising on certain interests in order to access a space?
All right. So how do you think we, the general public or our listeners out there hearing this episode, can actually volunteer their help, or how can they support in making our society a more inclusive society for the elderly care?
Yeah, I was thinking about, just now you asked me about some of the interesting stories I had.
Yeah.
One of the stories I still remember was, so I was actually at a McDonald's.
Okay.
Right. So I was doing some work there, bought the ice cream, sat down there. I was doing some work. I stayed there for quite a long time. So one of the seniors, she was a cleaner there. I didn't know her, so she was completely a stranger, unfamiliar face. So she came by. She helped to take my tray and clean up the table. Yeah, and then I thanked her for it, and then she walked away. And after a while, she came back. She came back and she said, "Do you have some time? Boy, 有点时间嘛? Do you have some time?" I said, "Oh, sure. What?" Yeah. So then she sat down. I think she was taking a break. Then she sat down and she said, "Oh, actually, I need help reading some of these letters. It has something to do with insurance policy and scheme." So I took some time. We read it, and then I explained to her what she meant. And then she started sharing with me about why she's working. She said that she was actually quite bored at home. She wanted something to do, but she was also worried about her health. Increasingly, it's more and more difficult for her to continue to work, and she's worried what would happen then if she is not able to work anymore. And then one of the other things that was also quite interesting was that she was actually living in a sort of like a private property, landed property, together with her family members. And then she's also worried because of living in a sort of a private property, therefore she was not eligible for some of the assistance.
Right.
But then actually her income was low. She was working at McDonald's. She didn't actually get along so well with all her family members. So I think it is really quite complex and complicated. You can see how it really plays out just in one person's story, one person's life. So if you were to ask me what to do, I think it's really just having that willingness to listen to the seniors around us, be willing to engage and be willing to offer help if the time comes. Other than that, it's also looking out for people we see in the community. I think many of the friends I speak to, when I share about the work they do, they also share that sometimes they try to look out for the seniors that they see around where they stay. Sometimes talk to them, see whether there are some things that they might need help with. If not, just spend some time and chat with them. I think that's what they really appreciate as well.
I think most important when I spoke to the youths I met is to not feel like, when I ask them, for example, why do you want to enroll in a befriending program, to to get to know the older person, and they said, "Oh, because I think old people are cute.
Yeah.
Old people are cute, and so cute." And I have problems with the word cute,
Right.
because I find it can be at times patronizing and disempowering to the older person. Someone needs a friend; they don't need pity. Well, pity is the first step to action, because when you pity someone, you make the conscientious effort to actually do something about it.
Yep.
So pity is important, but it cannot be the only prolonged reason why they receive help.
Definitely.
Because that's not how you build a community that basically is inclusive to older people. Because pity has its own expiry date.
Yeah. Definitely.
So what I think is that beyond individuals compassionate towards each other, compassion in society lies in terms of how we treat other people who are vulnerable within our own systems.
Yeah.
For example, if you see that older people are interested in working and their job conditions should basically align with, for example, caters to their needs. As a small example, as some small concessions that companies can make, for instance, is to provide restrooms that are nearer to stations where older people tend to work, more toilet breaks, place for them to sit and rest. So these are small adjustments that companies can make to make your workplace more inclusive for older people. It could also be flexi hours for some companies. So this is basically what we call making intervention systematically, so that those who can work and who are working can enjoy the rest of their years working in an environment that actually fulfills basically helps their condition.
That's real support. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Art and Jingzhou. So we can conclude that no matter whether or not the elderly is working really for money or actually wanting to keep their minds active, ultimately it's their choice to choose, and they should be given that freedom to choose, right? And what we can do as a community is to really show respect and in their choices, and also give them support whichever choice that they're actually making, whether or not it's at an individual level or at a corporate level. So thank you all for tuning in for these episodes of Spill the Tea with THG.
Do catch us on Facebook and Instagram, and make sure to tune in to us on Spotify.
Until then, talk to you soon.